Earlier today on how the media can report on immigration issues and anti-foreign sentiments to foster social cohesion. The discussion focused on how the divide between locals and foreign nationals can be remedied by the manner in which media tells a story. To take this discussion further, we're now joined via Zoom by William Bird from Media Monitoring Africa. William, a very good afternoon to you. Thanks as always for joining us here on SABC News, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me on the program.
You're most welcome. All right, let's talk about, what's this, inspired this discussion. One would think the recent, what is being termed xenophobic sentiment that is being pushed around. And let's talk about your interest in it as Media Monitoring Africa, what you got out of it.
So look, I think it's a really important discussion to be having in relation to the role that the media can play in addressing these things. And it comes on the reality that there are certain individuals and entities that are pushing a clear xenophobic and Afrophobic agenda on social media. And there are incidents of xenophobia and Afrophobia in our communities. Government has been trying to respond to those. We saw just recently Minister Motsoaledi commenting and to some degree fueling xenophobic stereotypes, talking about arresting illegal rascals that are here committing crime. So, I think that there are a number of issues, and the role that the media plays in addressing those is obviously key, and hence our interest in this. It's an issue that we've been looking at as Media Monitoring Africa for, over a decade in terms of how the media address and deals with issues of xenophobia.
Yeah, and I mean, is it the role of the media then to report in a certain way? And the reason, and that's concerning to me, because it's almost as though an agenda is being set. I mean, one wonders if the role of the media isn't just to take the news and then report as to this is what is happening. Why is there a secondary a sort of job given to media to report in a certain way?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I guess there are a few answers to that. The first is that the media in South Africa have a default position that says that that clearly says xenophobia is wrong, and I think that that's correct, because of course xenophobia at its base is very similar to, if not identical to, issues around racism. It's about a particular approach and a paradigm that sees people as being less than, or as because of either their race or their nationality or their ethnicity. So for South African media, which they generally do fairly regularly, to take a clear editorial position that says we condemn racism and xenophobia, I think is a good thing. So you can't come to it pretending that media don't have a position on this, or that they shouldn't have a position on it, especially when it undermines people's rights to dignity and equality. So it's, as media, they have the right to freedom of expression, and to pursue that right, they need to make sure that they respect other rights as well. So to that extent, it is about saying, when they report on this, it isn't just about making sure that it's balanced, accurate and fair. It is about acknowledging that there's a particular series of issues here that fundamentally undermine people's rights to dignity and equality.
Yeah, so my question wasn't necessarily about, the position that the media should be taking on certain issues. I think maybe to ask it differently, how then should the media be reporting on issues pertaining to xenophobia? Because I don't think any media practitioner or any responsible media practitioner would be sharing any sort of xenophobic sentiment anyway. Mr. Bird, are you still with us?
In South Africa, that is correct. They generally don't. In other media around the world, they do adopt an openly xenophobic approach, unfortunately. So it is to our credit that our media don't. So I think that what they can and should be doing, and many of them do in fact do this, is going in and understanding what are the causes of that xenophobia beyond some kind of a populist rhetoric. It is about asking questions and saying, well, let's understand if there's a xenophobic incident, what are the material issues that may have contributed to this. We know that often, for example, people link non-South Africans to criminal activity. Is it the case that there is a higher than normal amount of non-South Africans that are committing crime? I don't know. Those are figures that the media can have access to and should provide context to in order to help understand that.
Yeah.
Then it's about saying, well, if we're in a community and there are high levels of crime there and there are people committing that crime, what are the issues and the steps being taken by government, the SABC, to arrest that level of crime? Because, of course, if you manage to reduce the levels of crime in that particular community, how would that impact levels and feelings around xenophobia? Is it linked to people's general desperation? We've seen, links to unemployment, etc., etc. And so those kinds of issues, it's about helping the media to help unpack those and expand and explain why those are there, but then also for media to make it very clear and direct link as to why xenophobia is such a problem, why it's something that, if a politician openly admits that he or she is proud to be xenophobic, that should be something we should be condemning in the strongest terms.
Yeah.
And it's because of the fact that it links to undermining people's rights to dignity and equality.
Yeah.
That's the whole basis for our constitutional democracy.
Yeah. I wonder, do you think that, the criticism that media has been receiving recently could be justified? I mean, I hear you talking about Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, and one of the things he said, if I remember correctly from speaking to one of my colleagues, was that, it's strange that you would report on the fact that a Zimbabwean national has been murdered, but the fact is that 6 South Africans have been killed, and you're not saying very much about that. And one wonders, if those kinds of criticisms are indeed justifiable.
Yeah, look, that's just broadly speaking a lot of nonsense, because South Africa has horrific levels of crime, and more often than not, most crimes aren't reported in our media. Our media does report crime on an ongoing and systematic basis. In every news bulletin, almost in every area, news entity, there will be stories about criminal activities. So to suggest that they aren't reporting on them is just patently and fundamentally at odds with reality. To then suggest that, it's because 7 died here, but they didn't get it, but then this. No, the point is the people that may and that are usually killed, if they die as a result of their nationality, then our media will report on that. That's what happened in the other particular instance in Diepsloot, where the man was killed because of his perceived status and because of the fact that he was a foreigner. That's a hate crime. Our media report on those. They need to report on them. And in fact, they do report on hate crimes, again, on a regular basis, frequently if it's around hate crime, because it's about on the basis of sex or sexuality or gender or race. Our media report on those. So that, with respect to the minister, is because his department is doing an abysmally embarrassing job of fixing the very issues that contribute to xenophobia. Those things are used, and this is why xenophobia is dangerous, because it's used as a populist mechanism to direct and deflect people's attention away from real failings. If you want to look at one of the most clear examples of that, you need look no further than former President Donald Trump. His idea, in response to legitimate, again, like South Africans, legitimate concerns about immigration, legal, illegal, asylum seekers, refugees, etc., all completely legitimate concerns. Trump's response to that was, well, we're going to build a wall, right? Same sort of thing that our minister is using as an excuse to avoid dealing with systemic failures, in our instance in South Africa, with the Department of Home Affairs.
All right. William Bird, thanks very much to you there, Director of Media Monitoring Africa, speaking to us there. Thanks very much.